Well, today I'm going to do a review of the Maxoak Bluetti AC50 500 watt lithium battery bank. And if you watch any of my videos, you know that I think the 500 is the sweet spot for many people, for the average camper out there. Thanks for watching. Well, there was no way I was going to do that review on my hot driveway. My wife and I just got back from a 2-week trip to Colorado, and we were north and south, and we were in 7,000 to 12,000 feet altitude. It was cool, dry air, and now we're back in southern Indiana, and the heat and humidity is back on us. But we're glad to be back home in our pretty backyard here. And I do a very few product reviews, and today will be about this Maxoak AC50. And I think you'll be happy to know I don't do unboxing and plug in a phone and go, oh my, it works. So I'll save you and me some time with that. Well, the AC50 is a 500 watt lithium power bank, and when they told me they were sending it to me, I'd actually forgotten that they had sent me this before, and you can look up this review. This is the Bluetti AC10, and it's small, 99 watts, which means you can actually take it on a plane. I think you can fudge on that a bit more, but this is 99 watts, and so you can take it without any trouble on a plane. And you've seen a lot of power banks like this, but this has got 3 USBs, one's a C, but then what's unusual, it's got an AC outlet. You just don't see that on these smaller banks. I actually use this in my camper sometimes. I can just plug it in and run LED lights or my Max Air fan that I've got. But I typically will use units like this to run it. So you might check out the AC10. It's a handy little battery. Well, I don't do unboxing, but let me show you what comes in the box. It comes with this lightweight carrying case, and it would definitely work. You can use, I think, mainly to protect it, but it zips up and it's got a pocket in the front. You've got instead of a generic, it's a Bluetti branded charger, AC wall charger, and it's got the barrel connector that will plug into the input, and I'll show you those inputs in a bit. It comes with a car charger with the same barrel plug, and a USB-C cord, which I must have left in the house. And then for solar, you got some standard MC4 that plugs in with this barrel connector again, and you can plug it into any solar panel that has these MC4 connectors, which are pretty typical. So that's what comes in the box. Well, these lithium battery banks are all the rage the last year or two. You see a lot of reviews on YouTube, and here's another one. And what's great about these is, compared to lead acid, these guys get a great number of recycle charges, and I'll go through all those details in a bit. But these are so handy because you can charge them, some of them faster than others. This is somewhere in the middle of the pack as far as charging. But one thing, when you talk about lithium batteries, there's 2 or 3 major brands that come up, and this is definitely one of the Maxoak Bluetti. They've got several that are larger, and the big one is the AC200 that's out just now, and it is a huge lithium battery. It's pretty heavy, but boy, it can do a lot of things. So, but today we're featuring this AC 500 watt. And let me go over some of the specifications. Before I do that though, it's got great handles. It's just this rock solid. They really know how to build these. This one they sent me has orange, and they've got other colors that you could put if that's a big issue to you. And one thing I really like, I'm looking and I don't see any place to plug in anything or inputs except on the front, except on the very back there is one input. Okay, but other than that, everything's on the front, and I really like that, especially if you're in a camper or a van. You don't want to have to be flipping and turning things around, so I think this is a great design when they put everything right there for you. Well, it may be pretty and everything and not so heavy, but that's not what we really care about. We care about what can it do and what kind of ports that we have. So let's talk about the basic specifications right now. So the AC50 is a 500 watt hour, 300 watt inverter. It can take a max wattage of 300 watts. It can, however, take a peak of 450 watts. There's a 2-minute limit on that for a surge for some device, and then it will shut off after 2 minutes. So you'll find out quickly if you're exceeding the power capability of this unit or any unit like this. So you have to be reasonable in your expectation. It tests out at 430 watt hours, which is 86% efficiency. And you have to understand there's a BMS, battery protection system, and what it does, it protects these lithium batteries, so you're actually not using the bottom 10%, which if you did go to absolutely zero, it would kill them. It would absolutely kill them. So it does protect it, but it's listed as a 500 watt hour, but it's 430 is the testing that people have gotten with it. And so, like I said, 86% efficiency is pretty standard for these. It's pretty good. There are some that are not that good, by the way. It is 13.6 pounds. The dimensions are 11.6 inches by 7.5 by 7.7. So it's a nice, small, compact unit. There are other 500 watt lithium battery packs that are a bit bigger for sure. The life cycle is really important to people, and it's how many times you can run this down to zero, back up to 100%, and the life cycle is rated at 1,000. But how many times are you going to do that? And so when I'm using a lithium battery, I rarely run it down that low, and you really don't want to be running these down too often, down below 20. You know, if you run it down to zero now and then, it's okay, but you really don't want to be doing that all the time. And that's true of all lithium batteries. But so that means if you run it, like it's like me with a gas tank. When we're driving, I don't like to be below half a tank. I don't get much below 50% on a lot of these in most situations, overnight use or whatever, running a 12-volt refrigerator or whatever, and then I'm back recharging it back up. So if that's the case, then you're going to get a whole lot more than 1,000 life cycles. And what that means is, it doesn't mean it's going to charge only 1,000 times. It just means after that point, it's reduced capacity. Typically, it's they drop down to about 80%, but that's still a good amount of juice left in here. You have wireless charging options. So here on the top, you can put your phone and charge right here on the top if you have a phone that has that capability. The only downside is it's not a regulated 12-volt output, which means it can drop down as the capacity drops down. It would have been good if they had the regulated port, but I think all their other products now have that as well. Well, overnight I got word from Maxoak about the 12-volt regulated port, and the version that's in this video does not have a regulated 12-volt port. But they did say that the new AC50S model, which just came out, it is essentially the same thing, the same model with the regulated port. So you may look at that, and they even mentioned that they're going to update the AC50. So, but the 50S has a regulated port. So I just wanted you to know that. People always ask, can I use this while I'm charging? Can I be charging phones or plugging in this or that or LED lights or whatever I'm doing while I'm charging it? And the answer is yes. That's called pass-through charging. And so the AC50 does have that. Let's talk about recharging. Well, recharging on average, if you bring it all the way down, it can take about 6 hours from a wall outlet. This has an MPPT controller, charge controller with solar, and it's probably one of the fastest recharging. They say if you have a 120 watt panel, you can recharge this in 4 hours. So that's pretty efficient. Now, you've got to have the sun at the right angle, bright sun, no clouds, so all that plays into it. We found that out on our trip to Colorado. With passing clouds, it does affect, obviously, how much juice is going to come in here from the panels. Well, let me turn this on. Let me show you something. Very quickly, it's on. And one thing that all the reviewers want to make fun of with these lithium batteries is they have a flashlight. And this has a light. This is actually more of a lantern. And so you can have it on high, low, and it can send a SOS. I don't know how many people know what SOS is anymore, but sure some young people would go, what are you talking about? But it does have a light that's it's more usable. And if you were changing a tire or in the campground, you could turn this on your picnic table as you're doing something as the early morning or in the evening. So actually it's not a bad feature. The warranty on the AC50 is 24 months, and that's better than some. Now and then you can find something longer, but typically a lot of them are just 12 months, so it's nice that it's a 2-year warranty. We call it an all-in-one power station and has multiple outputs. So on this front panel, we've got the power button, and then we've got a DC and AC button, and that means you're turning on that section of the AC50. You would not want, when you turn the power on any lithium, turn the power on with one button and everything is live, you might say. You want it to only be feeding the outlets that you're using. And if you're turning on an AC, that means an inverter is coming on, and that's using up some juice. So the trick with these lithium batteries is to run as many things as you possibly can with 12 volt, because there's no inverter happening with that. So we've got 5 USB ports, and we have 1 USB-C and then 4 of the standard USB-A. We have 2 AC standard wall outlets that are pure sine wave. And on the DC side out, we've got 2 12 volt, 3 amp barrel plug. So you have some devices that are 12 volt that have a plug at the end. And then we've got the standard DC out that's a standard cigarette lighter that you plug that you see in a car. Well, now let's take a close look at the display here. And it's pretty good. It's not super detailed, but it does show you what you need to know. The display screen is 5-segment battery, and it shows, it doesn't show percentage underneath precise, but each one, it shows 25%, 40%, 80, and then 100%. And then it shows you what watts you're using if you are running AC or DC, and then the watt usage at the top here. So that's what's covered up there. I also did want to mention that you see the vents here, and there are fans that help cool this off, especially when it's charging, or if you're running the inverter, you may hear that fan come on, but it's not a big loud sound for sure. So it's a nice compact unit. You can use it anywhere. And how would I use it, or how might you use it? Well, obviously, with, as I mentioned before, charging your electronic devices. Inside my little camper, easily this can run my Maxair fan a long time. If you have LED lights inside or outside, I've got an ARB awning that has an LED strip in it, so you can plug that into this as well. And if you need to, say, run a TV in your camper, a little projector perhaps. So, I mean, I could just make a list and go on and on. What I like with these smaller units is if you're driving somewhere and you have a 12 volt refrigerator, and you just stop briefly, you run into Walmart, do something, and it's plugged into the cigarette port in the front or the back of your car. A lot of cars have multiple ones now. And so on our recent trip, we'd run in, and you know, it wasn't that hot, but it was in the sun, but I wanted to keep the refrigerator running, even though it would have probably been fine. I unplug it from the car and would plug it into a lithium battery like this. And then as soon as you get back in, you go off the car power and save the juice on the lithium. And quite often what I would do is, at that time, then I would plug in the lithium battery into the car, and it's charging it back up as well. So refrigerators and charging your batteries and all that, just a multitude of things, everyday uses. And so these are small enough you can pick them up, take them anywhere you want. And they suggest that you know, every few months run it down, then charge it back up, just to kind of keep it healthy, kind of battery management, you might say. But it's also handy at home when that power goes out and you maybe you've got some things you need to run, or at least have some lights going on. You will be good with this. So this is the Maxoak Bluetti AC50. Great little unit. These things are so well made. The company is highly regarded. If you're in the market for a lithium battery, this just might fit the bill for you. And thanks for watching.